welcome to our channel. Today we are going to be showing you how to develop advanced drop-down menus in Excel. Let's say we have a list of staff and the various regions or zones in which they work, and I want my drop-down menu in such a way that when the zone changes, the drop-down menus show only the staff that work in that particular zone or region. So in our normal drop-down menus, we are going to manually select. We have 4 zones, zone 1, 2, 3, and 4. You select the zone, and then in the staff list you are going to come here and you are forced to select among all these staff, whereas not all of them work in zone 1. So what I'm trying to do today, what I'm going to show you today is how to select these staff depending on which zone in which they work, which is in the advanced drop down menu. So what I'm going to show you today is how to select these staff based on the zone in which they work, and here's what I'm trying to say. So you have here zone 1. When I click zone 1, I see just staff that are working in zone 1, Desmond, Kizito, and the rest. When I choose zone 2, you see here on my drop down list, you see Abba, Ahmed, and all the staff that work in zone 2. When I choose zone 3, it's the same thing. When I choose zone 4, you have the same list of staff as listed above. So you have zone 1, 2, 3, and 4. So how do we go about making these dependent drop-down menus? Let's get into it. Here is a data set that we are going to be working with. If you notice, there are no drop-down menus here. We are going to add them manually. But before we do so, we are going to transform our data set into a table. So I will just click only on the table and I click Control T. It transforms my data into a table and I click OK. And now it is in the form of a table. Okay, let me just change the name of the table into data table underscore table. The next thing I need to do is go to my formula bar, use the name manager to name all my zones and the staff. So I begin name manager, new. I want a new name. I want this name to be called zone, or I want this list to be called zone. It's inside this worksheet 1. I don't need to change it. Now the scope, where do I want my scope? I want it for these 4 zones, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I click OK. It tells you the range in which it's going to consider for your zone. I'll add another name manager here for zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, and zone 4. So the name of this one is going to be zone 1. Where should you take the staff of zone 1? If you click from this table, so it tells you data table zone 1. I click OK. So we are in zone 4. Bam. Okay, now that we have given names to all our zones and all our staff lists, we can now go ahead to create our drop-down menu in this space. So we go to the data tab, data validation, list. On my source, I'm going to click F3 and it brings me down the names I had earlier created. So for this, in my case, for the zones, I'm going to click zone. I click OK, and you see that when you get here, you can choose zone 1, you can choose zone 2, zone 3, and all the other zones. This is where we are going to make our drop-down menu dependent. And remember, we said we want to make a drop-down menu that is dependent on the zone in question. So we are going to go back to our data validation list. But now at the level of the source, we are going to use the indirect formula, which I am going to type right away. Indirect, I open my bracket, and I am going to choose C12. Let me just write C12, close my bracket, and because I wanted to always choose from column C, I am going to lock the C column, and there's an error that is showing on the screen. Do you want to continue? I say yes, and that is it. Initially when I come here and try to select, it will not give me any drop down menu because it is not seeing where its value. But when I come here and I choose zone 1, I'll be able to choose staff that are found in zone 1. You see these staff on this my drop down menu here are the same like the ones that appear up there. So I can choose Desmond, Zito, Layo, Vera, and the rest. When I choose zone 2, you have Abba, Ahmed, and the rest. If you want to choose zone 4, for example, you are going to see that zone 4 can give you only these participants, Gladys, Naomi, Achille, and whatever, Ghislaine, and the rest. Just a tip, it is preferable to make sure that your data is in the form of a table. This is so that when new data comes in, you don't need to go and change your table ranges, you don't need to go and update your formulas and all the like. For example, if after some time, zone 4 here decides to recruit a new staff, say the name is Asanji, as I'm going to write it here, just by mentioning the name Asanji on this zone 4 table, I'll be able to get it back on my drop down menu wherever it is, and there you go. And if another staff comes in, say Mirabel, you will be able to get it on that list. If Mirabel comes in, you'll be able to get Mirabel still on the zone 4 list. And if some staff decide to resign, let's say in the entire zone 2, we are left with just about 2 staff. Let's just take this off, we delete this. When you go to zone 2 now, you are going to see just 2 staff remaining. And now you are going to see that there's an empty space on the drop down menu when you try to select, irrespective of the number of empty cells that are found on my table. The drop down menu gives me just one, just to account for the fact that there are empty spaces on my table. So the more I fill it with the names that were here, there was Oliver, there was Markham, and the rest. The more I fill it, the more they will appear on my drop down menu, and I can select it as I need. This is how you can use the indirect formula to build dependent drop down menus. Thank you very much for watching this video. This is a simple video on how you can use the indirect formula to get dependent drop down menus in Excel. So if you liked and enjoyed the video, kindly like, subscribe, and share the video with your friends, with your Excel gurus, so that we can learn together. Bye bye.